Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever wondered why perfectly reasonable people just turn into absolute savages the second they log onto the internet? Or why getting a simple thumbs up emoji can literally ruin your entire day just depending on who sent it? Well, today we are unpacking the fascinating science behind all of that, how the digital world has completely rewired the way we communicate. We're going to dive into some incredible academic research that decodes our online behavior. And the best part, we've mapped all these insights out into a super clear visual journey for you. Let's get right into it. Here's the roadmap for our digital tour today. First, we'll define exactly what cyberpragmatics actually is. Then, we'll check out the loop of online hostility. After that, we're taking a tour through three specific digital arenas: the campus, the political stage, and online gaming. Next up, the multimodal era, basically how we communicate without just using words. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at our rapidly approaching future with artificial intelligence.
Section 1. What is cyberpragmatics? The science of online interaction. Okay, let's dive into this and set the foundation for everything we are about to learn.
So to really understand our wild digital behavior, we need an academic lens, right? And that lens is called cyberpragmatics. Based on the 2017 research by Graham and Hardaker, it's basically the study of how digital communication fundamentally reshapes meaning and politeness. When we're communicating through our screens, we are operating in environments that are often asynchronous, which is just a fancy way of saying there's a time delay, plus they're anonymous and super visual. And this completely alters how we negotiate social relationships. It honestly explains why we act so fundamentally differently online compared to how we act in the real physical world.
Think about traditional face-to-face communication for a second. You have a physical presence, it happens in real time, and crucially, there are direct, immediate social consequences if you're being rude to someone. Now, compare that to the digital environment. We have massive delays in response, we usually have this invisible shield of anonymity, and our normal, conventional social boundaries, they are heavily, heavily weakened. Without those traditional politeness filters and, the actual physical presence of another human being standing right there, our communication strategies just completely change.
Because those boundaries are practically gone, we enter Section 2, the loop of online hostility. Let's take a look at digital aggression.
Seriously, why does a simple, super mild disagreement in a comment section suddenly just turn into a massive, aggressive digital wildfire? It's a phenomenon we see literally every single day, and researchers have finally mapped out exactly how this escalation happens. The answer actually lies in a concept that researchers like Culpeper call impoliteness reciprocity. Since we don't have those real-world face-to-face consequences, a hostile comment just immediately triggers an equally hostile response. It usually starts off with a bit of sarcasm. Then it escalates into mock politeness. You know exactly what I mean, those passive-aggressive, "Oh, thanks so much for your expert opinion" kind of replies. That quickly degrades into direct insults, and finally explosive emotional replies that can spiral all the way into full-blown cyberbullying or cancel culture. It's just a totally toxic, self-feeding loop where bad behavior practically guarantees a worse reaction.
Section 3. Campus, Politics, and Gaming. Touring the digital arenas. Now that we have this theory of digital hostility and shifting politeness, we are going to take this exact framework and apply it to three very different everyday digital environments to see how it plays out in the real world.
Okay, let's start with the universally anxiety-inducing task of messaging a professor. Research by Rizdianto and colleagues shows that students actually try incredibly hard to be polite. They'll use super formal greetings, excessive apologies, religious expressions, all to show respect. But they still often commit what's called accidental impoliteness. Why? Well, because written digital text just strips away your tone of voice and facial expressions completely. A student might send a message that sounds perfectly respectful in their head, but it comes across as demanding or abrupt to the lecturer purely because they lack digital etiquette, or what scholars call pragmatic awareness.
Now let's step into the political arena. Research by Groshek and Catino maps out the escalation of political polarization online into three really clear steps. First, a controversial issue drops. Instantly, platform features like mentions, retweets, and rapid replies amplify it to thousands and thousands of people. Then, in step 3, the discourse immediately becomes highly emotional and polarized. What's absolutely fascinating here is the ongoing academic debate. Like, are we just inherently this hostile when discussing politics, or do the algorithms deliberately push this controversial content because anger drives engagement? The science actually remains totally, neutrally split right now on whether the users or the platforms are the ones to blame.
And that brings us to our third arena. In the hyper-competitive world of online gaming, researchers found something brilliantly counterintuitive. All that toxic trash talk you hear in multiplayer lobbies, it actually isn't always just mindless aggression. According to Nensalanti and her team, it actually serves as a strategic tool. Players use it to establish dominance, provoke opponents, and, bizarrely enough, to build group solidarity and humor among their own teammates. So, in this specific digital subculture, what looks like severe impoliteness is actually a really complex form of social bonding. Wild, right?
Section 4. The multimodal era. Beyond just text. Let's move to and see how this builds into an understanding of how our online language is rapidly evolving far beyond mere words. Because we obviously lack physical bodies online, we've had to invent entirely new ways to show emotion. Emojis, memes, and stickers have literally become our new facial expressions. But honestly, perhaps the absolute most powerful tool is digital silence. In the realm of cyberpragmatics, leaving someone on read or deliberately just not replying to a message is a massive multimodal statement. Silence online speaks volumes. It carries just as much pragmatic weight as a physical frown or literally turning your back on someone in real life.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the internet effectively broke classic linguistics. We used to rely heavily on classic politeness theory, like the gold standard from Brown and Levinson, which basically assumes humans almost always want to save face and be polite to each other. But the internet forced scholars like Ree to create a totally new framework called post-politeness. In digital spaces, users will intentionally mix super polite words with insulting memes to create irony, humor, or dominance. It's dynamic, it's highly public, and those traditional theories, they just simply cannot explain it anymore.
And this new dynamic leads us to a really beautiful yet kind of chaotic duality, which is perfectly captured in the research of Fatmawati and Ningsi. The internet is just a massive paradox. On one hand, anonymity absolutely breeds destructive behavior. We're talking a huge volume of face-threatening acts, insults, and cyberbullying in comment sections everywhere. But existing in those exact same spaces are incredibly constructive acts. We see unprecedented outpourings of global sympathy, massive fundraising for total strangers, and deep, genuine community solidarity. Cyberpragmatics isn't just about toxicity. It's about the full, magnified spectrum of human nature.
Section 5. Entering the artificial era, the future with AI. That spectrum of human nature is about to get even more complicated as we enter the final frontier of our digital tour.
As chatbots and large language models totally flood our workspaces and social media feeds, we are facing a massive ethical dilemma. Should artificial intelligence be programmed to mimic natural human conversation, and I mean all of it, including our sarcasm, our passive aggressiveness, and our verbal sparring? Or should AI be strictly hard-coded to maintain an ethical, perfect standard of politeness regardless of how hostile the human user gets? This right here is the absolute new frontier of machine pragmatics.
So the crucial point is that this whole field of study is really just getting started. Scholars are now completely racing to understand how digital politeness translates across different cultures. They're diving way deeper into gaming communication, they're studying AI-generated impoliteness, and examining how we negotiate our digital identities, or our digital face. These ongoing debates are absolutely going to shape the policies of social media platforms and the very code of the technology that you and I use every single day.
I want to leave you with a final, pretty provocative thought. As we spend more and more of our lives navigating asynchronous messages and algorithms and AI chatbots, are we just teaching technology how to speak our language? Or, by adapting to these digital environments, is the technology fundamentally changing what it means to be human? It's definitely something to think about the next time you draft an email, send a meme, or find yourself arguing in a comment section. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the digital world around you.